Let me tell you something most men never learn until it's too late. When a woman disrespects you, leaves you questioning your worth, or makes you feel invisible after everything you gave, your words won't fix it, explaining yourself won't fix it, and waiting for her to understand your pain, that'll just keep you trapped in it. There comes a moment when the only thing left to do is to disappear. No closure, no message, no dramatic send-off, just silence. Not to punish her, not to prove a point, but because you've realized your energy is too valuable to beg someone to recognize it. That kind of silence, it doesn't just end conversations, it rewrites the whole story. Now let me walk you through what that kind of disappearance really means, and why it's the beginning of a new kind of power. Point 1. When respect fades, presence becomes a gift. Most men think love means staying, no matter how badly they're treated. But here's the truth. Once respect starts fading, your presence stops being appreciated, it becomes expected, taken for granted. And the more you stick around trying to explain, trying to fix, trying to be patient, the more invisible you become. You want to shift that energy? Remove yourself. No goodbye, no guilt. Because once your presence becomes rare, people are forced to reflect. Not out of spite, but because your absence becomes a mirror. You're not leaving to hurt her. You're leaving because staying would keep hurting you. Let her feel what life is like without your calm, your loyalty, your presence. Sometimes the loudest statement a man can make is walking away without a sound. Point 2. She expected emotion. You gave her nothing. When she hurt you, disrespected you, or walked away, she probably expected a reaction. Tears, anger, a long paragraph, something to prove you still cared, but instead, you vanished. That silence doesn't just confuse her, it disarms her, because now she doesn't know where she stands. She doesn't get the satisfaction of knowing she still has a grip on your emotions. And here's the beauty of it. You didn't ghost out of bitterness, you disappeared out of discipline. You didn't react emotionally, you withdrew quietly. And that's what turns the tables. In her world, you just became the one man she can't predict. And that's when your absence becomes more haunting than any words you could have said. Point 3. Disappearing is healing without applause. You don't need anyone to clap for your growth. You don't need to post quotes about detachment. You don't need to announce your silence. The real ones, they vanish and evolve in private, not to prove anything, but because they're done bleeding in public. You don't heal by being heard. You heal by being still, by cutting off what caused the wound and letting your peace speak louder than your pain. Most people think healing looks like progress they can show off, but for men like you, like the real ones, what it looks like disappearing, upgrading, and letting the world wonder where you went. You're not hiding, you're rebuilding. And when you return, if ever, you won't be returning to her. You'll be returning to yourself. Point 4, stop explaining your standards, enforce them. Every time you explain why you deserve better, you lower the weight of your worth. A man with standards doesn't debate them. He doesn't repeat himself. He walks when those lines are crossed. And most women won't take you seriously until you disappear without warning. Not because you're playing games, but because your silence shows something stronger than your words ever could. Conviction. You're not trying to make her feel guilty. You're reminding yourself that respect is non-negotiable. No more teaching someone how to love you. You show them once. If they miss it, you vanish. That's how boundaries are enforced. Not by fighting, not by fixing, but by exiting without explanation. Point 5, the power is in her imagination. Now, you ever notice how silence makes people start guessing? When you stop texting, stop watching her stories, stop reacting, she starts wondering. Now the narrative shifts. She no longer sees you as the guy who couldn't let go, Maureen. She starts seeing you as the one who walked away, like it didn't even faze you. And that unknown, that's where the power lives. Her imagination becomes your echo. She starts rewriting memories, looking for signs, questioning her decision, all because you gave her no closure to hold on to. Let her imagine the man you've become since you left. because once you go silent, it's not your words that haunt her. It's everything you didn't say. Point 6. You don't chase closure. You create distance. Closure is overrated. It's just a nice word for, let me hear something that makes this hurt less. But the truth is, real closure doesn't come from her answers. It comes from your decision. You don't chase understanding. You choose distance. Because you've realized something most men don't. She already showed you everything you needed to know by how she treated you. So instead of reopening old wounds for one last conversation, you let silence become your answer. And you let distance do what words never could. Rebuild your peace. That's not weakness. That's power that doesn't beg to be understood. Point 7, disappear. Not to escape a battemte, but to elevate. You don't vanish because you're scared. You vanish because you're done operating on a level that lets people play with your emotions. Disappearing isn't avoidance, it's elevation. You leave because you've outgrown what once had the power to break you. She might think you're bitter, cold. Let her think whatever she wants. Because you're not disappearing out of hate. You're disappearing because peace doesn't require permission. You're elevating into a space where not everyone gets access anymore. Where you don't chase love, beg for clarity, or tolerate inconsistency. You disappear to level up, quietly, completely, without looking back. And lastly, you don't need to argue anymore. You don't need to wait for her to see your value. You just go. Not to hurt her, not to prove anything, but because you finally learned a man's power isn't in how loud he roars. It's in how quietly he walks away and never looks back. Comment below with one word: gone. If this hit you, you already know why.